Coach Mo.
Hey, it's Coach Mo.
Hey, it's Coach Mo.
Knowing what you want to accomplish professionally is just the beginning. I'm Coach Mo, and this podcast is for young professionals and emerging leaders who want to lead, achieve, and succeed at work. You've got executive ambitions and the drive to get there. Join me for perspective, insights, and thought-provoking questions that only you can answer. Today's episode starts now.
Tuesdays with Coach Mo.
The sounds of wedding bells bring with it a life full of hopes and dreams with a new spouse. Two individuals joining together, creating life as one. That new union ushers in the emergence of a new life with certain values, beliefs, priorities, possibly children, and a bright future filled with love and possibilities. All until it doesn't. Having to face the harsh reality after 12 years of marriage coming to an end, you'll hear my guest on today's podcast as she said, "My ex-husband was my 50% partner in the upkeep of our household and the raising of our two children, who at the time were just 2 and 4 years old. My world as I knew it came to an end." Today's guest is Shelmina Abji, a high-achieving professional who shares her journey from childhood in Tanzania to raising through the ranks at IBM as one of the highest-ranking women of color, all while raising her children as a single parent. This interview is from my archives, and it's one of my favorites, Replay with a Purpose interviews. To this day, I coach high-achieving professionals, men and women, who are single parents. They initially come to coaching with the purpose related to professional development, yet they continue coaching because of the trusted space they now know is a support for them in navigating the competing priorities of their life. As you will hear, Shelmina, who is now a global empowerment speaker and former IBM vice president, shares the raw truth of the emotions of her experience, her key steps for successfully keeping her career on track, the resources she leaned on in navigating her journey, and at the end of our conversation, she offers one extraordinary piece of advice of what she would do differently if she had a chance to do it over. Enjoy the interview.
So to just start us off, Shelmina, what do you attribute your success in advancing your career while raising two young children as a single parent?
Thank you, Monique. First, before I even get started, I want to thank you for this opportunity to get my story heard by young women. I would really like to accelerate their thought process into being successful and their ability to be a single mom. First and foremost, it started with my desire to succeed. And when we have the deep desire to succeed, and when we have clarity around what that means to me, to you, very personal, internalize that, that's when we start focusing our energy and our attention to that word success. After 12 years of marriage, in which my ex-husband was my 50% partner, not just in upkeeping my household, but also raising my two children, who at the time were 2 and 4, we separated. My world as I knew it came to an end. I had to do a lot of soul searching on what was important to me. And my definition of success at the time was that I was going to provide for my children, to provide for the well-being of my children, to provide a secure future for my children. For me, it was about education. And so it was really important that I be able to provide my children with the best education that was available to them. You know, I decided that if my kids went to college, what would it cost me? And also, I wanted to retire without being a burden on anyone. I was very motivated to make sure that I had enough money to ensure that my kids went to college without taking out a loan and that I retired without being a burden. That was my definition of success at the time. It was a very limited definition, but it worked for me because at that time it drove me to become who I am.
Was that a journey for you to get to that mindset of ownership, of saying, now I've got to step to the plate and provide for my children educationally, to ensure that I carry that burden? Did you need help in that, or did you get there pretty quickly? What was that part like for you?
It wasn't pretty quickly, Monique. First of all, I completely agree with you about setting, once you have your mindset. What I believe, what I tell people is energy goes where attention goes. It didn't happen right away. I was devastated, as I told you. I went through some serious soul searching. I had to first find myself and my own truth and my own sense of confidence to get to that point. I had to do a lot of inner work. I think it's really, really important for women to realize that if you want to be able to take care of the well-being of your children, it has to start with your own well-being, because you cannot give anyone what you yourself don't own. There's a lot of internal work that has to occur within yourself to get to that point of being able to clearly define what success means to you. If your brain is not clear, you will not be able to define success and what that means to you.
What were some of your other lessons in addition to taking care of, your mental health, your well-being?
I learned to simplify my life. I learned to say no to many things that didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I really learned how not to waste time. And then I also learned how to do more. One of my biggest challenge, Monique, was when I first became single, I found myself thinking about my children at work, thinking about work when I was playing with my children. And then when they went to bed, I would feel badly about the fact that I was physically present, but I wasn't mentally and emotionally present with my children. It didn't happen overnight, Monique. Initially, when I was disturbed mentally, I was angry. I was paralyzed by fear. You would hear about, drug addicts and teenage pregnancy and school dropouts, and that can paralyze. That fear is paralyzing. And for me, it was a very abnormal state of mind, because I was a confident, happy-go-lucky individual who now is fearful, which means that my mental well-being was not right. And because I was fearful, I was angry. And my daughter reminds me that, a busy mom was better than an angry mom.
Was there a particular tool you used to help you on that focusing? At home, you're at home. At work, you're at work.
I had to do a lot of work on it. I read a book. It was by Stephen Covey called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
And it's an old book, but I would highly recommend people to go back and think about, Stephen Covey talks about this jar, and he talks about big rocks. And big rocks are things like your mental well-being. And he says, if you don't take care of your big rocks, you will fill your days with sand and never get to your big rocks. So let me share. So that was one thing. And the other thing, Monique, I really believe that, when you need help and when you're open to messages, angels come your way, messages come your way, books come your way. When you are seeking, it comes to you. And I was very deliberate about what's important and what's urgent, what's not important. You could spend 24 hours in an urgency mode that doesn't add any value to anything that you define as success. And you have to work at this. You must work at it. For me, I started with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I will tell you, when I first became single, as I told you, my life was turned upside down. And I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And I met a friend who knew me as this very confident, very positive, very altogether woman. And she saw me and she goes, "What has happened to you?"
Wow.
And I said, "What do you mean?" And she says, "You are not the Shelmina I have known since we were kids." And, sometimes it takes an external force to make you realize. And so I, of course, started telling her how I was stretched with time, with a full-time career and small children, cooking, cleaning, taking care of them, giving them a bath, reading them stories, making sure that I was there for them, not getting depleted of my energy. This was just really difficult. And she's the one that told me, Shelmina, if you want to take care of your children, you first have to take care of yourself. And I looked at her and I said, I have no time. Are you kidding me? I have no time. And she said, everybody has time. Everyone has 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
You are the one that decides how you allocate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so it got me thinking. And I said, you know what? She is absolutely right. I cannot become a victim of my circumstances. I must control how I allocate my time. I must get myself back together. And I started doing some yoga and some meditation first thing in the morning before the kids woke up. I replenished my soul and my energy by being by myself, all alone in solitude, in quiet, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of yoga. When I was done with that hour, the next 23 hours, I was able to accomplish so much more because now I was full of energy and I could give it to my work. I could give it to my kids, and I still had energy when I went to sleep. It's because I took care of allowing myself to become energetic, to become calm, to become peaceful before I even started my day. The other thing I will tell you is, in spite of understanding what my big rocks were and what I needed to focus on, what happens is, as the day goes by, many things want your attention. They're vying for your attention. Even though you're doing one task, an email will show up, the phone will ring, somebody will stop at your office, and they're vying for your attention. And I was at an IBM recognition event listening to the legendary football coach. Now remember, I am not into sports at all, but this guy, Lou Holtz, you may have heard of him, brilliant man. And, he started talking about how he defines win. He talked about winning and how he defines win. His definition of win was what's important now. W-I-N. What's important now. And that really resonated with me. So when I was focused on a task, I would turn off the phone because this task was important to me. I would shut my office door. I did not allow interruptions. And when I was interrupted by something that was truly needed, I was very quickly able to decide what's important now. So unless there was a phone call from the school that had something to do with the kids, and thank God, it happened very, very rarely. I'm very fortunate. My kids were in a good school, in a good daycare. They were healthy kids. And so this happened very, very infrequently. But when that did happen, that was what was most important. I stopped whatever I was doing to pay attention to that.
Having that acronym, what's important now, although this simplistic and initial concept, it's so powerful. And that tool in and of itself is a powerful resource for individuals to identify a mantra, something they can say to themselves to get unhinged when they're about ready to derail and fall back into bad patterns that aren't serving them well. If you have a mantra that resonates with your newly established belief system on where you are and how you're progressing through life, that is a powerful tool. And so many individuals just kind of, brush that off, don't want to take it as, something that's meaningful. But I'm so glad to hear you say that win, because it gives you to anchor yourself. What's important now, Shelmina, when you're in the midst of all of the, all that's coming at you in the day. So thank you for sharing that.
It's a process. It is a process. That's why this self-reflection every week and to course correct where you made an error. Don't punish yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Just accept the fact that you made an error and that you're going to change. But without reflecting, without understanding, and without knowing yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, everything, it's very, very difficult to do this. They sound simple, but they are very, very difficult to implement if you do not reflect and learn.
Absolutely. The application is where the rubber meets the road, actually applying what it is that you desire to use as a resource for yourself to give you that support that you need. Shelmina, in terms of what I've heard you say in reference to your success principles, number one was really having that mindset, that deep desire to succeed. You know what you wanted for your children. You know what you wanted for your career, and working hard in a very disciplined manner to strike a balance that would allow you to then accomplish these goals. And in doing so, not only did you have to, number one, take care of your well-being, you had to, number two, focus your decision. Number three, make decisions on what was most important and prioritize those. And then lastly, the power of the word no, to keep you from being pulled in so many directions, to stay true to yourself, true to you able to accomplish your goal, learning to say no, as difficult as it may be at times, but it afforded you the opportunity to successfully navigate your life with your children and your successful career path at work. Is that a fair capture?
It's a great capture. I know you meant the word win. You said now, but it's the word win. What's
the win? I'm sorry. What's important now? Right. What's important now? And so, and then also, I applaud you for tapping into resources. And there are resources. No one is out here on an island. But to your point, you have to be open to receive. So you picking up a copy of Stephen Covey's book, you being open in conversation with your friends and the one who pointed out to you that you needed to take care of you before you could be any good to anyone else. And that you resonating with yoga and meditation and then recognizing the power of you taking control of 1 hour of your day would make you better for the other 23. How did you, in fact, manage the expectations of your boss and, let's say, colleagues when you were faced with competing forces between work and home?
Yeah, that is a great question, Monique. First, it has to start with managing my own expectations. I had to be realistic about what's possible, what's not possible, what do I bring to the table. And, you know, once you find your own strengths, once you have confidence in the value that you're bringing to all your stakeholders, then you are able to clearly articulate, have open and honest communications with everyone on what your priorities are. I was a single working mother, and everybody knew that. But I also made sure that I was aligned with the right organization. It was a good cultural fit. IBM was a very friendly organization for people with children. But I was also cognizant of the fact that I needed to work harder to make sure that nobody ever questioned where my priorities lied, and nobody ever questioned the value that I was able to bring to the organization. Mm-hmm. You see, Monique, when you clearly know what your value is, it gives you the confidence to have a conversation with your boss, with your colleagues. If you have to take the afternoon off, no one questions because they know that if she is gone in the afternoon, she's going to take care of what's needed at night after the kids go to sleep. Mm-hmm. To me, when you have that flexibility, it actually puts more responsibility on your shoulder. It puts accountability. You must ensure that you are not taking advantage of the flexibility, but you're using the flexibility and ensuring that while you have the flexibility to take care of your children, you are also giving what the organization, what all your stakeholders need from you. I didn't have the job where I wouldn't take a job where I had to be at the desk for 10 hours a day because I had to be realistic with myself that my kids were my priority. I had to go pick them up when the daycare ended. I had to attend a PTA meeting. If there was a doctor appointment, I needed to take them to the doctor. So I needed to be realistic about the jobs I can and cannot do. And while I was raising my kid as a single parent, I wouldn't have taken a job that required me to be in the office 12 hours a day. because it would have defeated the purpose. My purpose, my definition of success was the well-being of my children. And so I had to find that right balance, that right fit, that ability to soar with my strengths, to provide maximum value within the flexibility I needed to raise my children.
What did you learn about yourself in this delicate act of balancing between mom and a high-performing professional?
What I learned was I was capable of accomplishing a lot more than I had ever imagined when I was present in the moment, when I was intentional about where I focused my attention. I also learned that time was my most valuable asset and that I had to be very smart about how I allocated that asset. And when I decided to focus my attention, to give time to a certain task, I poured my heart and soul into that task. Mm-hmm. That task got done to the best of my ability.
And how receptive were those in the workplace of your need to balance? Mm-hmm.
At work, it is about the value that you bring to the organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget, it's not about the time you put into work. It's about the outcome you deliver at work. Mm-hmm. I always met or exceeded my expectation at work. And so no one ever questioned how many hours I work or whether I was a single mom, not focused.
See, what role do relationships play?
My biggest strength, Monique, is to build trust and confidence. It's to build relationships. I work on getting to know people. I work on getting people to get to know me. And this is where when you have to take an afternoon off, nobody questions because they trust you. They have confidence in you. And I trust the people I work with. I have confidence in the people that I work for, I work with, who work for me. So relationships, in my opinion, is the underlying principle for success.
Yeah, did you let your coworkers know when you had your, what your boundaries were, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't really discuss relationships. I live relationships. Relationships are the big rocks. Remember, you must make time. You must make time for what's most important to you. You are laying the foundation. If you don't cultivate the relationship, you don't have a solid foundation. When you start building on that foundation, it will crack.
Mm-hmm.
So you must take the time to build relationships with all your stakeholders. All your stakeholders. No relationship is small enough.
That's a terrific point because inside of organizations, those relationships get so key, in particular of navigating. You need others to be speaking up for you and on your behalf when you're not there about what a terrific job you would do in this role or that role and, seeing you as a leader. Those are those internal advocates that only get there when you've established that quality relationship, and you cannot just make it all about just the work or getting that next sale with the client without navigating those internal relationships. I have one last question for you, which is if, you were granted a do-over and during the trying times of trying to navigate your career and your role as mom, what would you have done differently?
I will tell you that if I had a do-over, I would have learned to more gracefully accept the situation that I found myself in. I would have learned to do that faster. I would have found more help. I could have gone to a counselor. I never went to a counselor. I would have shortened the time frame of being paralyzed by fear. I would have started quicker to focus on what can go right as opposed to what can go wrong.
Right. Well, and that is a terrific, as we draw our interview time to a close, because you're not trying to deny your emotions. It was your truth. And I would imagine it's the truth of anyone going through a divorce and finding yourself with two young children and being a working parent, that it's uncharted territory. And you're then feeling the onus of keeping a roof on their head, food on the table, education to be planned for your children, the weight of that. So it's not a matter of denying your emotions. You're going to go through something. But to your point, it seeks support sooner, so the duration isn't as long, and that you're in control and you're the master of your journey. Is that a good way to bring us to a wrap up?
It's a great way. It's a great way. And let's begin, let's end this with the beginning. Is I am doing what I'm doing right now, and speaking to more women is because I want to accelerate their journey. I want them to know that they don't have to suffer for as long as I did, and that it is possible to get over it and to gracefully accept it and to not become a victim of your circumstance. Because I will tell you, Monique, when you change yourself, your external environment changes with you. When you become positive, you draw positivity into your life. And so the change has to start within. And the sooner you change, the faster you will be on the road to success.
Wasn't that a terrific conversation? So to bring you up to date, Shelmina's children are young adults now and are both professionally accomplished and successful in their lives. She's remarried, and in addition to being a sought-after speaker, she serves on the advisory board of Girl Up, founded by the United Nations Foundation, which engages girls to stand up for girls globally, empowering each other and changing our world. And she recently posted on LinkedIn how she and her husband have now provided access to education with a school in a remote Tanzania village. So if you're in pursuit of success as a single parent, I'd love to hear your response to this question. What was most helpful for you in hearing Shelmina's journey? Send me a voice message on Instagram at Tuesdays with Coach Mo, or send me an email at askcoachmo@gmail.com. And for our segment of Coach Mo Knows, a tip, a coaching question, and a bit of inspiration. My tip following today's conversation, there are actually 3. So the first one, if you're facing personal or professional challenges and want to tap into your strengths and create new opportunities for yourself, consider completing the Clifton Strengths Assessment and discover your top 5 themes of where your greatest talents and strengths lie. Second, be sure to keep up with what Shelmina has going on at shelmina.com. And I'll be sure to provide links in the show notes to this information. And then third, one of the resources Shelmina used during her time as a single parent and trying to navigate these newfound waters was 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And although she used a book at the time, they now have free webcasts available. So I'm going to provide a link on the show notes for today's episode on how you too can gain access to some free information that may be beneficial for you. And for the coaching question, are you ready for a coach? As Shelmina referenced, if given the opportunity to do over her journey, she would have sought support sooner so that she could have been successful in moving through those emotions and getting to positive results faster. So if you're experiencing challenges of moving yourself toward your own goals, then maybe having the support of a coach in your corner will help you accomplish what you want for yourself. So take the quiz and find out if now's a good time for you. And in terms of inspiration, this week it comes from Esther Pearl, who said, "Self-esteem is the ability to see yourself as a flawed individual and still hold yourself in high regard." Make it a great week. That's a wrap for this episode of Tuesdays with Coach Mo. Showing up here tells me you're willing to invest in yourself and your career. Get additional resources at tuesdayswithcoachmo.com. Please subscribe and leave a review. I'd love to get your feedback. Till next time, this is Coach Mo signing off.
Tuesdays with Coach Mo.